Hello, Dr. Jan. Welcome again to the Be Well Now Method podcast.
Hello, Janet. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to pull you into this thought I had as I'm listening to things about emotional eating, which is a hot topic, and we all experience it. And we're going to talk about, we talked a little bit before the show about how we both experience it, um, but how to use emotional exercise correctly
Hmm.
to help to reduce emotional eating. So I really want to tap into your wisdom here with this.
Yes. Well, I certainly understand emotional eating, but I'm not sure if I understand emotional exercise.
Yeah, it's just a term I came up with. When I heard
Okay.
emotional eating, I thought, yeah, there's an emotional side to exercise, and there's two parts to it.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer that question. But first, I want to make sure that we all start in the well state. So we'll use the Be Well Now method to just pause and take a moment to just let your body find a position where you can rest. Feel your breath moving in and out. There's nothing you have to do. That breath is just taking care of you. And just feel your body, feel your breath, and notice what's here. And notice what came up as we mentioned the words emotional eating and even the word exercise. What emotions came up and what's important to you about exploring this topic? And then you might even find that your body has some tension left over from what you did before you started listening. So maybe add a little movement to this, and we can like do a little stretch or something just to kind of movement, anything that just kind of gets us in our body so we can approach this with a whole person awareness.
Yeah. Good.
Ah, nice exhale. Okay. Ah, so, so emotions. So first I'm going to ask you, how would you define emotions?
Um, when you say that, it seems like when we say emotions, usually it kind of has a bad connotation
Mm,
because you're emotional.
yeah, you're
It's
emotional.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then interestingly, when I was first introduced to what was at that time called the four basic emotions, I think there's
Mm,
five now,
mhm.
but it's basically mad, sad, glad, and scared.
Okay.
Well, three of those are negative.
Yeah.
So
So
no
we have more
wonder,
negative. Yeah.
yeah, so no wonder if
Right.
we're talking about being emotions or emotional, that
Yeah.
it's not, it makes sense that we might veer that way. Oh, like, oh,
Right.
that's bad. Emotions
Yeah.
bad. Um, so that's what I think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. And these, we know we have emotions because we feel them. We call them feelings and we feel them in our body. That's how we know we have them. It's not a brain based knowing, it's a
Yes.
body knowing. And they make us feel uncomfortable because they change our body to get us messages, right? If I hear
Yes.
an alarm and my body starts to tense, it's to tell me you got to do something about that because there's a problem.
Yes.
And yeah, and so they're really messages, right?
Yes.
That we need to take action for something.
Yes. And they manifest physically in the body as
Yeah.
sensations.
Yeah.
Although we're not very much, I guess it's because it's so automatic
Yeah.
and it's gone on so long, we don't even get that connection.
Yeah.
And learning to get that connection more is extremely helpful.
Yeah. And as a physiologist, I think, okay, it changes the body. What does it do to the body? It puts it in a stress state. It puts it in a
Yes.
fight, flight, freeze, ready to move state. So, as
Ye-
an exercise physiologist, that tells me emotions mean our body is ready for action, ready to move.
Yes.
And emotional eating is when that causes us to move to the refrigerator, you know, move to what the food industry has designed as foods to light up our brain and change our brain chemistry and help to kind of cure those emotions, right? And even I passed by a truck for an ice cream cake, a very popular ice cream cake, and the line was, "This is what happy tastes like." I was like,
Yes.
wow, yeah, we're inundated with those messages like,
Yes.
ooh, do you want to feel happy? Eat this ice cream cake.
Yes.
celebrate, and it had
Yeah.
celebrate all over it and all of that. So we can associate food and emotions, which is not a bad thing. Like, it's lovely to celebrate with food. That's okay. But emotional eating in our environment that's really set up to gear us towards eating to solve emotions has this downstream effect, right? That we're distracting from them, and all the problems with eating emotionally, our gut health, everything.
And that's what I like about what the intuitive eating
Hmm.
specialists say is that, or this is how I would interpret it, is you want it to be a conscious decision, a
Hmm.
freely chosen. So if you want to enjoy that ice cream cake and the happiness it brings or whatever,
Yeah.
that it's fully embracing it. You
So
know,
yeah.
but you just have this foundation of it's so much more consciously aware,
Okay.
because sometimes eating that cake would not really get the job done. It wouldn't
Yeah.
make you feel happy, or, there's something else that would actually be better, that's a
Hmm.
better fit or is more on target. And if you completely glom on to the ice cream cake equals happy,
Yeah.
you've kind of it's too limiting. It doesn't give you
Hmm.
enough choices.
Mm. So what you're saying is intuitive eating is about having that autonomy, that sense of choice that I want to feel happy. And rather than just mindlessly going to ice cream cake to feel happy,
Yes.
you can look at the range of things that you could possibly do right now to feel happy. And maybe
Yes.
it's ice cream cake and that's intuitive eating, or maybe it's something else.
Yes, exactly. You
Yeah.
you you couldn't have said it better. Yeah, the component, it's autonomy, but I guess you can't have autonomy without awareness. And
Hmm.
if you don't even realize that this cake happy connection has been made, and that there's anything else beyond it,
Yeah.
uh,
So we're
then
back
you
to
don't really.
mindfulness.
Yeah, it is. Yes. It's an
Yeah.
awareness and then autonomy thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So just that awareness. So then to answer your question about emotional exercise, I think of it as two sides of the same coin, right? So if our body is ready to move, exercise can be done reactively. Like, I got on the scale, I feel ashamed, I feel angry, I feel frustrated. I've got to go get to the gym and beat my body up. I had two people say to me this week the same exact words. You mean I don't need to kill myself with exercise to lose weight? And they were serious. They really felt like if they weren't in hurting, if they weren't pushing their body, then it wasn't going to work. And then
Yeah.
they described that downstream effect of then I go to the gym and I see what everyone else can do. And I think, what's the point? I can't push my body that hard. So what's the point of doing anything? This is never going to work for me. I better just not even exercise. So
Yeah.
it flew them into this all or nothing state with exercise, and a lot of frustration and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. So when we
Yeah.
started our conversation and I said, you know what? Stress is probably more important than how many calories you're burning. And if that I've got to kill myself approach to exercise for weight loss is keeping you in a stress state, it's telling your body it's not a good time to lose weight. And we described how to use exercise to get to the well state, and their face lit up. And it was interesting to have these two people with these same exact reactions um,
Yes.
have this mindset change, this shift, this paradigm shift of, oh my gosh, and this smile came on their face and they thought, thank you. Like they felt this sense of relief that they were finally didn't have to use exercise to react. They
Yeah.
could be more mindful about what they did to their body and kinder
Yes.
to their body. And it was so amazing to me. It's always
Yeah.
amazing to me when I see people with that mindset, but it's all over the media. I don't know why I'm amazed by it.
Yeah, it's such an all or nothing reaction, like you said. Oh my goodness. And no wonder people don't do it.
Yeah.
Or even those words, if I have to kill myself to be healthy,
Yeah. Right.
something, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, yeah, but how many people believe it? How many TV shows and Instagram reels do we have that display that very paradox?
Yes, and if I can add
Mhm.
one little piece, it
Yeah,
does seem like a lot of the pictures or
Mm.
visuals that we get are people, straining or
Yeah.
pushing, or, you
Yes.
can tell that they're grimacing, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and not that that's never okay, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
but that it seems like if you're not doing that, well,
Yeah.
you're lazy or you're not
Yeah.
doing it right, or, what's even point of showing up if you're not
Yeah.
gonna give it your all, leave it all there on the gym floor.
Right.
Uh, yes, it's so not helpful. And then if I can add in a piece, um, how people use exercise as punishment
Mm.
for eating. And that's
Yes.
someone that I talked with this past week
Okay.
who that's a common reaction too is,
Yeah.
"Oh, I overindulged, or I shouldn't have done that," or, "I
Yeah.
felt like I had to eat this with my family or whatever, and now I've got to make up for it," with over-exercising. And, that's a different expression of it, but
Mhm.
these are both things that they're hugely problematic. They don't
Yes.
help.
Yeah. It's
They
using
really don't
exercise.
help.
Yeah, and it's using exercise to kind of keep emotions down, to ignore emotions and push through them, and it's a practice of mindlessness, it's a practice of self-criticism. So you could
Yeah,
practice mindfulness on a mat and be meditating and then go exercise and practice the opposite, and they kind of cancel each other out. So if we pull
yeah.
in maybe intuitive exercise, we can kind of replace that intuitive eating with intuitive exercise. What you talked about was paying
Wow.
attention. Where am I getting pulled into that reactive exercise? And then the opposite, you know, piece of that is responsive exercise. And that's
Yes.
really
I
why I
love
came
that.
up with the Be Well Now method, because I find that we're reacting. We're reacting to Instagram reels. We're reacting to what somebody said. We're reacting to what our brain says we should do, what we used to do, what used to work, well, all that. And rather pause and, okay, what's going on inside? Wow, I got on the scale and I'm feeling this storm of shame and embarrassment and discomfort in my body. And I really want to be healthy, and we can get to that well state, that value driven, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, I want to feel
Yes.
better in my body. How can I use exercise to feel better in my body now? And
Yes.
then that
Because
shifts to that responsive, responding to that built in
yes.
self care.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like there's I guess most of the words that you're using, you and I both are using associated with exercise, they aren't happy emotional words. It's shame, guilt,
Yeah. Yeah.
force,
Yeah.
uh, willpower. Um, it's no, those are not well state
No.
emotions.
No.
Yeah,
They
and the
perpetuate
good
chronic
news is
stress.
there are well state emotions that you can bring into exercise that I've
Yeah.
learned from you
Yeah.
that, but that's why I think we wanna do these podcasts is
Yeah.
this is a counter message
Yes.
to what is commonly out there,
Yes.
and I'm motivated to do these with you because I see and I've personally experienced,
Yeah.
how much pain and suffering is associated with this that is not only is it not helping, it's actually harmful.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is something different and better,
Hmm.
and it is so needed and
Yeah.
certainly so welcome when you understand it, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And the nice part is the solution, the alternative is really simple because it follows the principles. It follows the principles of movement science. When you align with those principles of movement science and exercise science, it shines a light on exactly where we get into trouble. So the principles of exercise science are um, gradual progression. And
Okay?
so that means and another one is individuality. So meet yourself where you are, right? And that
Yes.
individuality is, how am I feeling right now? That's why the B step is there, right? That's like, okay, where am I at now? Not what could I do in high school or what do I think I should do or what's somebody else doing that's giving them results, but oh, I've got this knee pain, or oh, I'm getting over pneumonia and I'm really tired. Or I talked to a woman this week who is a school teacher and she was exhausted, doing really well with exercise over the summer. Then school started and bam, exercise stopped because her
Things
energy was
change.
going into that, right? And
Yeah.
so to meet yourself where you are and say, okay, that worked over the summer, but right now my body needs something different. Energy's going into this
Yes,
working thing. And so that ability to be an individual, to listen to
yes,
yourself, right? And individuality is one of those principles, like things that don't change. That's principles are like set in stone. This is what happens. So if you can meet yourself where you are and start where you are, okay, I'm tired. I'm in pain. Okay, what would feel good right now? And then start at that level and then do a gradual progression in a pain-free or pain-reducing range
yes,
that gives you energy, doesn't take your energy. And that takes a
yes,
lot of mindfulness and self-compassion to say, oh, I don't
yes,
like being in pain. I don't like being tired, but I'm
yes,
here. And that's really important. So that gradual progression in a pain-free and pain-reducing range is how exercise gets anti-inflammatory and keeps you out of the stress state. But
yeah,
instead, we tend to ignore that and push through pain and think that pain is good and all that messaging. So giving yourself permission to go low and slow enough to be pain
hmm,
free every step of the way is really important. So that's the gradual progression. Um, and then specificity. What do I need right now?
yes,
Specifically, um,
yes,
like I'm feeling tension, I'm feeling tight and I really want calm and peace. Okay. Oftentimes stretching really does that, like just some very gentle stretching. I don't have a lot of time and energy. I can just do some mindful stretching, which is
yes,
exactly what I did when I found myself at the refrigerator when I was writing and I was ready to go to the refrigerator. I thought, oh, wait, hold on, go outside, stretch. And it was so simple and like an easy way to get back to the well state and avoid that emotional eating. Um, or I just had a fight, and I'm so tense and I'm really feeling kind of um, doubting myself, right? Not liking
yes,
how I behaved. I got to do some strength exercise. I got to really feel my sense of confidence in my body and feel my own strengths and get back to
yes,
that sense. Or I'm really low energy and I've been sitting at this computer. Let me go for a walk in the sunshine and just at a low pace and just see if that raises my energy. And that's where we stay mindful. So following those principles really kind of takes the problems out of it. And mostly when we're coming into trouble with exercise, we've denied one of those principles.
yeah. It sounds what you're describing is so responsive.
Yes. Yeah.
It's responding
Yeah.
to, and I keep coming back to awareness. You have
Yeah.
to be aware that that's
Yeah.
what you're feeling and to
Yeah.
give yourself some choices,
Yeah.
so it's not on automatic.
Right.
And if you decide that you want to eat, even eat emotionally,
Yeah.
it's being chosen freely or
Yeah.
with awareness. That's different
Yeah.
than, it's just automatic. In fact, well, that's, when we're doing these things mindlessly, um, we're not free. We don't
Right.
have the freedom
Yeah.
to choose.
Yeah.
So what you're describing starts to give you more choices,
Yeah.
whether it's to go ahead and eat something or do something different,
Yeah.
a little bit of something movement oriented. Uh, that's what's so great about this
Yeah.
is you open up so many options and choices
Right.
as opposed to just a few things or things that are being done on automatic pilot, and then you look back on regret with them.
Mm. Yeah. So it opens up that field of awareness and like
Yes,
stress puts us in that narrow, it has to be this way. It opens up these choices. And isn't that self-determination like the first step to self-determination or the confidence that you can do something is that sense of autonomy, sense of choice. When we don't
yes.
have choices, we don't believe that we can do it. We don't have that sense of confidence and self-efficacy and belief in ourselves.
And I would say where that all started for me
Yeah.
was way back, long ago, when I discovered yoga, before
Mm.
anybody was doing yoga. But my little story is I was in Nashville, living in Nashville at the time,
Mm.
and I went to a yoga class. I didn't know at the time had actually been Dolly Parton's personal yoga teacher,
Wow.
but
Look
she
at
was
you
fabulous, as you can
rubbing no
imagine. Yeah.
right.
But the only thing I remember about that class at the end is we did a relaxation,
Mm.
and I remember my reaction to that. So this is
Yeah.
like awareness starting to come in, and it's
Yes.
like, what is this feeling? I don't recall I feel relaxed.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to like, what is this feeling? And it's
Right.
like, I feel relaxed. I don't remember ever feeling this way.
Wow.
Yes. Well, you know what? I was working full time and going to
Hmm.
school at night, you know? It was a
Yes.
stressful time.
Yeah.
So, I had that, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to feel relaxed.
Yeah.
I think I'll come back.
Right? Your body told your brain, this is good stuff. This is what
Yes.
you really need.
Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, that's kind of was the, what started with it. And then you
Yeah.
fast forward, a few decades and I discover, power yoga,
Mm.
which kick butt yoga. And, and when I started doing that, it was this awareness of one of my light bulb moments because there is that it is a powerful practice,
Yes.
of power yoga.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking at one point, this light bulb goes off and it's like, oh my God, now I know why they tell kids, boys, to play football in high school because the amount of aggression that
Right.
you can work off by doing
Yeah.
something intense like
Yeah.
this, it's
Right.
like, oh my goodness.
Right.
So this was a different kind of an emotion that was
Hmm.
being processed, and it was a whole different kind of exercise, but
Yeah.
how it was a way of working out frustration,
Yeah.
anger, just or irritability.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, this is
Wow.
incredible.
So you developed over the years this toolbox of how to use mindful movement in a way to meet yourself where you are. And then, oh, I really need that more intense today because I'm feeling that tension and that aggression. And I know this is going to help me get back to the well state. Or I really just need to relax. I'm going to do something more relaxing. But that
Yes.
mindful movement combination that you discovered
Yeah.
allowed you to treat the root cause of those emotions, which is the need to move in a
Yes.
way that
Yeah.
restores.
To
Yeah.
process emotion,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
might say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and the great thing about it is that, yoga has many different levels
Yeah.
of intensity or whatever, so it's a great example to
Yeah.
use, but there's many, many ways to do this.
Yes.
But, if I stay with the yoga example, then there's the power yoga effect. But then another awareness that came along later is okay, let's say if there was some day where I was feeling incredibly down or
Mm.
hurt,
Mm.
it's like power yoga is not going to get it, you know?
No.
And then
Yeah.
learning how to move rhythmically or
Yeah.
use restorative yoga positions to
Yeah.
process those kinds of emotions.
Right.
It's a whole different so if you're trying to, use one type of exercise, to process or emotion, it's like, no, back to that, what was the word you used? Individuality, I guess,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
specificity.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And yoga has so much history behind it, but really yoga is just moving in a way that brings your brain, body, and heart back together in the same place. And that's
Yes.
mindful movement. It's really mindful movement. And that's why I use mindfulness in strength exercises, mobility exercises, cardiovascular exercise, and exercising well, because it really allows you to use every type of exercise. And in that way, and our body needs those three types of exercise in the right balance. Yoga I put in the mobility category. It does improve a little
Mhm.
strength and stamina. It will do that to some degree, but really we need pure mobility, strength, and stamina to get all three. So how
Mhm.
do we use each of those in a way that brings balance? And that we've got this big toolbox of things we can use in just a moment, and either on a regular basis or in a moment. So you've got this toolbox. And I think that's what's missing from the conversations about emotional eating and intuitive eating is that what we've lost understanding of is that physiology of emotions is the need to move. That's
Yes.
the whole point of emotions is I'm ready to move, especially those tough emotions. But even
Yes.
the happy emotions, there's reasons why there's tribal dances to celebrate, right? We move to
Yes.
celebrate. And so I think that's why I wanted to do this topic with you, because when I hear people talking about emotional eating, I find that there's this big black hole of information that, you know
Mhm.
what? Mindful exercise is the cure for those emotions. And then we can start playing with emotional eating and what is that food doing for me and everything like that. So hand in hand emotional exercise in a responsive way and emotional eating conversations, they work together perfectly.
Yes. Yes. That makes so much sense. I mean, is there more you can say about that?
Well, I'd say that with my clients that I talk to, when they start doing this, they're like, you know what? And I've noticed this for myself too. You know what? I'm able to eat mindfully so much easier. If you've ever done like the mindful eating,
Yes.
eat a raisin kind of exercise,
Yes.
it can kind of
Yes.
feel forced. Like, okay, eat that raisin until it dissolves in your mouth. And it can just kind of feel like this very uncomfortable
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using exercise as a way to be in your body with presence and kindness and trust that it is taking care of you, it wants to take care of you,
Yes.
then that mindful eating is, oh, how is this food taking care of me? Being mindful of how that food feels, why I'm eating, how I'm eating. It just happens more naturally because you're embodying mindfulness and self compassion rather than it being this brain based thing. I've got to be mindful. I've got to pay attention to what I'm doing. It's very
Yeah.
stuck in the brain because we're using exercise to disconnect from the body. So
Yes.
to me, I find when we use exercise to reconnect with the body in a very kind way and know how to help us to be well now,
Yes.
then the practice of eating can become this source of mindfulness, this source of presence. And we have an
Yes.
easier time decoding those cravings.
Yes. I want to repeat what you said for myself, and then just to emphasize it, that yes, we're talking about using exercise to disconnect from your body.
Yeah.
Is that not a wild thought?
Right.
And then what we're talking about, your Be Well Now method, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it is the way to reconnect with your
Yes.
body.
100%. And your heart. And your heart.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's profound.
Yeah.
I'm just like, sitting with that for a moment, taking that in. But again, I just think it needs to be emphasized that just because we're exercising does not mean we're connected to our body,
Yeah.
our physical body, or our emotions. And
Right.
there's this huge opportunity, this
Mm.
undiscovered territory of, oh my goodness, I could actually use movement, exercise to connect with my body, to be aware of what's
Yes.
happening in
Yes.
there. And I could use it to help myself,
Yes.
to comfort myself, or to help myself relieve tension,
Hmm.
or, soothe myself, to energize myself.
Yeah.
You know, uh, this is incredible.
I love the word you said, opportunity, right? At every moment, anytime we eat, anytime we move our body, it's a choice to either practice presence in our body and connect in a way that we're practicing wholeness, or it's a practice of disconnection and practicing that fragmented reactive. And every day it's a choice. And sometimes we're going to eat mindlessly and practice mindlessness. And sometimes we're going to eat mindfully, and it doesn't matter. As you're saying that word exercise, I can hear all the clients and people I talk to saying, yeah, that's great, but I can't exercise. I have pain. I'm tired.
Mhm,
I'm busy. I'm stressed. I can't afford a
mhm.
gym membership. Exercise brings up all these walls because we've made a
Yeah,
lot of walls with it. But when
yes,
we brought in the definition of exercising as moving the way your body is designed as an act of self care, and by learning how your body is designed, like those principles of exercise that I talked about, and the principles of movement science, alignment, core support, hinging, um,
yeah,
just those basic principles of how to move. I've had people walk into a session in pain, not being able to get out of a chair without pain, and then learning how to get up out of a chair without pain by applying movement science principles. And that opens up a whole world of movement to them that before movement was closed because it was always painful and always stressful. Now,
Yes.
movement exercise can be used as self-care because they're following those principles of how the body is designed to move. So I think it goes hand in hand. And that's why there's these three elements of movement science, motivation science, and mindfulness just blend together so nicely. One doesn't really work
Yes.
without the other. We've got to have
Yes.
a little education about our body. And it's like adult physical education that we never get. We learn about sports and phys ed in school. We might learn a little bit about fitness, but we don't really learn about the body and how it's designed to take care of us. You
Yes,
know?
and I want to repeat what you just said there too, because again, for me and to emphasize it, but it's like, yes, your method is bringing together movement science, motivation science, and mindfulness,
Yeah.
and it's so alliterative. It's wonderful.
I love that. I love alliteration.
That's perfect. Yeah, but seriously, yes, there's something about putting that together, and when you say that, for some reason, what I think of is one of the practices that I'm doing now is for strength training is with weights at the
Yeah.
gym,
Yeah.
machines. And how funny it is, though, that I'm there breathing rhythmically with the movements.
Mm,
I'm usually there at a time when not many people are there. It's quiet. It's literally a moving meditation.
wow.
It
And what do you
literally is.
notice? What do you
I mean,
notice
there's
from
a
that?
difference between that
Yeah.
and if you want to use this as an example, I'll see if I can do this off the top of my head, but let's just go with the motivation science.
Yeah.
Well, the way that I've gotten myself to even go to the
Mm,
gym and
mm.
do that is I'm not doing the force, the grimacing, the
Yeah.
trying to start at where I was when I stopped, a
Right.
few years ago at the
Right.
same weights, the same, routine. It's like, no, what do I need now?
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
So, there was that piece of it, and then also the well part, I guess you would say, is this has to feel good. This
Mm.
has to be enjoyable. If I'm having to kill myself, why would I wanna show up here and pay somebody to kill me or to kill myself with to make this brutal, you know, it's just unpleasant experience. It's
Yeah.
like, no, actually, this feels good.
Yeah.
It's just right. It's challenging enough.
Right.
I'm paying attention. It's like, okay, do I need to take some weight down on this or up?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like again, freely chosen.
Yeah.
Well, I guess so we were talking about the certainly the motivation science fits in there and the mindfulness fits in there. I guess the movement science fits in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've learned how to move your body well. You've learned how to you do strength movements that are not like toning areas, but to do movements that really feel good and are related. I think you talked about like this is related to what's important to you now. And
Yes.
that gives you
Yes.
that sense of self-determination or motivation
Yes.
because it's very connected to what you value in life right now.
Yes. Yes, I would like to comment on that. Uh, it is a different mindset
Yeah.
that, yeah, it seems like that we are over focused on certain, oh, I want to work on my glutes or I need to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
But really, okay, when I'm doing those overhead or pull downs or whatever, yeah, I want to be able to move in this way because I
Yes.
need to be able to do this in life. I
Hmm.
need to be able to push things away,
Right.
pull things toward me, push
Yeah.
things overhead,
Right.
push down. But
Yeah.
those are what I guess what we would call functional
Yeah.
movements
Right.
that but that's a really good point that I'm more aligned with that than and it's probably I guess part of the payoff is I'm not hurting myself or
Hmm.
things are getting better,
Yeah.
not worse.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
positive effects, not pain or injure or something that's making me not want to go back the next day because it hurts
Yeah.
now, or I've injured myself. I overdid it.
It's a
Oh, and
beautiful
let me just add
example.
in part
Yeah.
two, though. I
Yeah.
want to show up too. This is very motivating. I
Mm.
want to keep showing up because I'm also noticing positive effects.
Mm.
You know,
Kind of
I,
long
I,
term.
I feel
Yeah.
stronger.
Yeah.
Whether it's like feeling in movement or just feeling a
Yeah.
muscle, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
That's good to know. You need
Right.
this, you
Yeah.
know? So it's motivating to keep showing up.
And research shows there is a very strong correlation to feeling physically stronger and having the feeling of being strong and confident.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
in embodying that sense of feeling stronger, you walk away from that more confident and feeling emotionally stronger too, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So now you're bringing in the emotional component
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
and is that how cool that is. It just
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. So this really, um, so it takes a little bit of learning, right? It takes a little bit of learning about understanding how your body is really designed to move and understanding from science and principles and all of that, and just getting good quality information about exercise. But then an understanding of yourself and that you science of mindfulness of,
Yeah.
okay, what's going on in me right now? And what do I value and what's important to me? And how do I feel and what's available? Um, yeah, it's the whole thing. It's a whole person approach. So this
Yeah.
is, so I think, you know, how do we sum up this idea of using emotional exercise, responsive emotional exercise, not reactive, to help to reduce emotional eating? How would you like, what's your takeaway from what we've talked about?
I don't know if this is totally on point, but the where I'm listening to what you were just saying, where I was going with that is this is the way to, I was going to say removal of the inner critic
Yeah.
from the way that you move or exercise and eat in life.
Yeah.
But actually that's usually remove the inner critic. It's actually something that helps calm or
Mm-hmm.
reassure our inner
Mm,
critic, where it
yeah.
doesn't get so freaked out and
Okay.
so hard on us.
Yeah.
That's really a more accurate way of describing it. But there's so much inner critic in what we've talked about today.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we remove that effect
Mm,
and change it?
yeah.
Um, and of course, we're bringing up inner pusher to some extent too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even say we're bringing up a committee member that I would call the rational mind, where we're
Mm,
trying to think our way. And
yes.
instead of feeling our way, we're trying to read something and it says that you should do this. Or we
Yeah.
watch somebody exercising, or here's a program, you should do this, or
Mm,
you should eat this way, like with the raisin thing, for
right.
example.
Yeah.
And this is it's like, no, it's really getting embodied. That embodied awareness
Yeah.
is just magnificent. The
Yeah.
the the change that it makes.
I know in our last podcast, you talked about that embodied committee member in the head, like bringing in and that spiritual one and, balancing those committee members so that the inner critic, the inner pusher aren't the loudest voices when you hear about the word exercise. You're bringing in a balanced approach to this, um, which we really dove into deeper on our last podcast together.
Yes.
And so this really has
Yes.
a connection to that. Yeah.
But how it would in terms of how this affects emotional eating, I guess what I would say is the more aware you are, then the more choices you have.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware of how upset you're feeling or how tense you are or tired, tired is a good one, really,
Yeah.
because, it's not okay to be tired. It's
Right.
just not.
No. Socially, it's not okay.
No, it's not.
Culturally, it's not
Or to
okay.
let yourself rest.
Yes.
So
Right.
not okay.
So
So
yeah,
not okay.
so it's not okay to be tired, but it's not okay to rest. We really are
Exactly.
stuck there. Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
hellish experience.
No
You
wonder
know,
we eat emotionally. The only
yeah,
the only
yeah.
solution is have some forbidden chocolate ice cream and get some energy there.
Yes. Well, literally. Yeah, I mean, that
Yeah.
is on hand. It's convenient.
Yeah.
And
Tastes good.
and again, not that it's never okay to do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know, that if I need some quick energy and it's right there,
Yeah.
to not criticize that either, but
Yeah.
just to have more choices.
Yeah.
And and how many times though I have found that instead of eating something, allowing myself to rest
Mm.
first, then,
Right.
then maybe eat something,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
but that what was really needed was rest.
Yes. Yes. And that calming kind of, where you talked about yoga and being able to rest, what allowed you to rest, which is why yoga is so magical, or mindful movement, is you're clearing that emotional state. You're clearing that tension so that you can. That's the whole point of the yoga poses, is to allow you to rest more deeply. And when we can make that connection to, oh, I need to move to clear that tension so that I can rest deeply.
Yes.
Wow. I think
Yes.
another podcast on sleep would be great. So yeah, so I can kind of wrap this up with the Be Well Now method, because the B
Yes.
step is that mindfulness, that sense of autonomy, that sense of choice, meeting yourself where you are. Okay, what do I need now? And then that well step is, okay, what's important to me right now? What do I need? That motivation that's internal, not external. And then the now step is, okay, how can I use movement? What kind of movement do I need to clear these emotions from my body so I can move with a sense of autonomy and choice and empowerment to intentionally eat or rest or do something else intentionally?
Yes. And I think the last thing I would like to add is how much we were talking about, the four basic emotions and how much joy and happiness this approach brings. It really does infuse it with that, and certainly more peace. And these are all things that people are looking for. So I guess that's why I want to be part of getting the message out, because this is a really different, well, again, I'll use that opportunity word. Don't miss the opportunity to experience this, because it's really not meant. Yeah.
I love having these conversations with you and bringing more depth into this method and this approach to using exercise to be well now.
Yes. Yes. I can't wait for the next one. I have some ideas too, so let's get started on it.